Hey everyone, welcome to episode 2 and an introduction to League of Legends. Today we're going to be taking a look at your in-game settings and getting everything set up so you can have the best advantage possible, as well as also having the best visuals possible when playing League of Legends. So if you're a brand new player to League of Legends, this episode is meant for you to get you the best start to the game with optimized settings so you don't have to go back and relearn something trivial later on. However, if you are unranked or currently stuck in low MMR, the point of this episode is to help you optimize your settings. So from this point forward, you can unlearn the game with the old inefficient settings that you have and now play and relearn with optimized settings to give yourself the best advantage possible. Now, when it comes to setting up optimized settings for League of Legends, we are going to be going in this with two different philosophies kept in mind. The first philosophy is going to be with visuals. What our goal with visuals is to do is to remove all unnecessary information while retaining all relevant information needed for the visuals and what you need to see when it comes to playing League. And the other part of our settings that we want to get set up optimally is our mouse and keyboard controls. The philosophy here is to give you, the player, maximum control over both your camera and in-game character while minimizing or completely removing any game assistance that Riot may provide. So when you first log into League of Legends and you jump into a game or the intro games, this is essentially what you're going to see. Over here is the practice tool counter. We're not really concerned about that because I'm just using this for examples. But the primary things that you're going to notice is the ability bar down here for your champion, the mini-map over here with the camera and options settings. You're going to have your FPS counter up here, your ping counter up here, as well as kills, KDA, your farm or creep score, which we'll get into in a different video, as well as your timer. Now, with your frames per second counter, as well as your ping counter, Control F turns this off and on. This is something that we want to have on, because if we get frame drops, we'll be able to recognize it by seeing there. If we have ping spikes, we'll be seeing that there. So when you press escape, this opens up the options menu, and the first thing we're going to take a look at is getting your resolution set up. So you want to click on video, and then the first thing we're going to do is resolution. So you'll see here on this star, for my system, it's 4K, but I play on 1920 by 1080 because I don't have a 4K resolution setup or 4K system setup. So I play on 1920 by 1080. However, for medium and lower end PCs, this star is going to be on one of these lower resolutions. So this is a resolution detection system. This is for the most optimized resolution for the computer you're playing on. For best color quality, I play on full screen instead of windowed or borderless. Now, the downside to playing full screen is if you Alt-Tab out, it takes a little bit longer for your desktop to reload, but I prefer full screen just for that reason, that it gives you slightly better color quality, and I'm not sure why, it just does. So the things that we want to have checked off is, first of all, colorblind mode. What this does is, if you're colorblind, this is a great option to have, but if you're not, if you see here, my ability bar is green, and when I check it off, it changes it to yellow. Your allies will be green, you will be yellow, and then the enemies will be red. This is a great indicator to help you differentiate yourself from your friendlies. Hide eye candy if you're on a medium or low end. This is something to remove particle effects to boost performance. Use relative team colors, as well as enable screen shake. This one is preferential. And then over here, screen shake, again, turn that off if you have a medium or lower end PC. So when it comes to the graphics themselves, what we want to focus on is not graphics quality. What we want to focus on is smoothness, or FPS. So if you're playing on a lower end PC, your goal that you want to shoot for is a steady 60 frames per second. Again, some people, I understand, just have super, like, $300 Chromebooks. If you're playing on that, set everything to ultra low and set the frame rate to 30. If you can, though, set it to ultra low, click on 60, and then it'll cap it out at 60, and essentially this is what lower end graphics look like. Now, again, our goal here is as smooth of a frame rate as possible to optimize your visuals when you're playing. Now, myself, I can play on full graphics uncapped, and that still plays relatively smoothly for me, and I don't have any issues there. But again, if you're playing on a lower end PC, also uncheck anti-aliasing. Your goal is a smooth, consistent 60 frames per second there. Also with these, this is 100% preferential. I just have everything on a flat 50 because this is how I like to see it. So jumping down from video to sound, the way I have my sound settings set up, it's 100% preferential. I have the music turned off because I play other music in the background, but to save on performance, if you don't want to use Windows Media Player and music that you have, if you need to, I have, you can turn music on. Again, that's a preferential level. Master volume controls everything. What I would have on is announcer voice if you're communicating with people and not using Discord. Sound effects, definitely. Ambient, you don't necessarily need it on, but it definitely helps when, you know, someone's attacking Baron or Dragon, and ping you definitely want on. All of these, announcer, sound effects, ambient, and ping all give you sound information when it comes to the game, so all of those at the very least you want on. Disable all sound, you don't want that. You want sounds on, obviously, and theme music, again, if you keep that on as preferential. Getting down to the interface, so this is a big one. So the interface is your health bar, as well as the shop, your HUD, and your minimap. So the way I have things set up is I have things actually turned down quite a bit. So with that philosophy of maximizing information that you need with minimizing information you don't need, first of all, the HUD scale I have turned all the way down to 0. As you can see, it's still up, but it gives me a whole bunch of extra room to click. Let me save that. As well as it gives me more information on the map down here in my visual spatial area. So if I have somebody coming up behind me, I'm going to see them sooner because this HUD is a lot smaller. Also, for every champion, because this shows your abilities, this is strictly supplementary information. So again, this can be as small as possible, which it is set here. Cursor scale I have set to 100 because it is good to keep track of where your cursor is at all time. Shop scale, this is the shop at 100. I have this set, I have this dialed back to 50, simply because there we go. Simply because, there we go again. So the shop, like I said, I have set to 50. This is acceptable in my opinion. You don't need the shop to be completely massive when you're shopping. Also, you should only be using the shop when you're down here at your base, or if you're on red side up here. Simply because it's a little bit too big for me. So this, in my opinion, 50 is optimized. Chat scale, I have that set to 100. So as you can see, there's a timestamp on there, so that'll show you different pings. If we press Z, it brings up all chat. So this gives you all the information that players type into game. Minimap scale. So the minimap is one of the most important things in League in terms of map information and map awareness. Now, even though this is the most important, it's still supplementary. So I don't have this turned down to 0 because I still want to be able to read it. But because it only shows objectives and player movement, I have this turned down to 33. So it frees up a ton of spatial awareness on the immediate map right here, but it's still big enough that we can read what's going on. Depth cap set to 100, just preference, that really doesn't matter. Practice tool I've set to 0. So jumping down to health and resource bars, show health bars, obviously we want to see everyone's health bar. Enable HUD animations and show health bar animations as show loss of control of user interface. So that's if you get crowd control. You can uncheck all of these for performance issues if you need to give yourself a little bit more FPS, like I said, with the graphics. This is all performance stuff. Show names above health bar, we want none. There is absolutely no reason that you need to see who or what the champion is, who the player is or what the champion is. So this frees up a little bit more space on our map, as well as giving us more information that we do need in terms of seeing on the map and minimizing information that we don't need. For notifications, screen flash on damage, screen flash on loss of control. These two, again, are for performance. Champion highlight on camera center, so if you press spacebar, this recenters your camera as well as showing the hitbox of your champion. So definitely keep that on. Legacy cursor, mouse, hand, mouse. That's all preferential. Tooltips, doesn't really matter. You can have tooltips on if you want. I don't care if I'm AFK. Show target frame on attack. Show attack range. So all of this is for your abilities. Show missile line display. So disable HUD on spell click. So all of this is for... I would have all of this enabled, period. This is all utility for your champion. Ability, display, and cooldown. I do minutes and seconds, so that way you can calculate how much time is left. Like, if your ultimate has 110 seconds, you can see it's a minute 50 instead of calculating a minute 50. Minimap, show minimap on left, that's preferential. Show neutral camps, allow minimap movement. I would have both of those checked off. Mirror scoreboard layout and show summoner names, that is in here. So mirroring scoreboard layout puts you here and puts your enemy here. However, if you don't mirror it, then your information is going to be over here. So we have to read left to right here and left to right here. If it's mirrored, then we read right to left on our team and left to right on this team. So I would 100% have that mirrored. Team frames on left, again, preferential. I would only move this over if you have your mini-map moved over. Show all chat, show allied chat, show timestamps, have all of those enabled. Mute enemy emotes, and then having emotes off. That is a little bit more for performance because those are 100% vanity. Emote size, normal or small, again, preference. For combat text, I would have all this on. I have mana checked off because there's no reason to know that you're spending mana. So if I check that off and press Q, spend mana, it's showing that little blue right there. There's no reason that you need to know that. So that's that for the user interface. Alright, so jumping down to game options, this is a little bit more supplementary in terms of control rather than graphics. So like I said, we want to give ourselves maximum control over our in-game camera as well as our in-game champion with minimal or no control from the game. So let's get into the control options. So for mouse speed and camera move speed, this is preferential. However, I would set it as fast as you're comfortable going. Reason being is mouse speed is how fast I can move my mouse like this. So having control over your mouse and having a high DPI in terms of speed helps get your mouse from like here to here to do more things faster with your champion. Also having more control over your movement like this. And then camera movement speed, we're going to get into camera options in a second. But the way you want to play League of Legends is using your mouse to control your camera. And so you want to have it at a relatively high speed that you're comfortable with, so you can move your camera around like this. Also, this is good when you're in lane, so you can like movement command over, movement command over, movement command over. Okay, so that will give you maximum control over there. Camera movement speed with the keyboard doesn't matter because you should not be using any keys to move your keyboard. I will be getting into that in a different video. So, move camera on revive. This is actually super important in keeping track of your champion after you die. So, if we have this unchecked, and then we die, and then we revive, see, our camera doesn't move back to our champion, which will always be revived at our base. So, if we check that off, kill our champion, and then revive, it'll automatically reset us to the shop and to our platform when we revive. So this is something you definitely want on for that. Mouse button for drag scroll, you don't want this checked off. There's no reason to left click and move your mouse around. Also enable smooth camera, keep this unchecked for performance. Again, it's a micro thing, but it's another one of those things that adds to processing power. Camera lock mode, I'm going to get to in a second. Gameplay, so when it comes to gameplay, we want auto attack. We want all of these turned off, but we definitely want auto attack turned off. Reason being is that I had mentioned that you want maximum control over your character with minimum control from the game. So if we have auto attack turned off, we just stand here and our character does nothing, and we have maximum control over their movement and their auto attacks. Okay, now if we turn auto attack on, and we get in range of our auto attacks, our champion is going to automatically auto attack a champion or a minion or whatever we're closest to. We want this turned off because as somebody, as a new player or as somebody who wants to start climbing and getting in good player habits, having this turned off to give yourself maximum control over your champion is necessary simply because of the fact that we want to remove our champion doing things that we don't want them to do. So if we have auto attack turned on and they start auto-attacking, like if we're hiding in a bush, or we mean to insert a move command, but then they auto-attack again, that's not maximizing our control over our champion. Now, for camera lock mode, there's two options. Optimally, you want to have an unlocked camera and learn to play this way because you want maximum control over both your movement commands and where you, the player, move the camera. Now, if we have semi-locked on, there is a way we can build up to getting used to this. So if I press the Y key, this locks the camera in the semi-locked position because Y is what locks our camera. But if you see here, the camera stops here, move over here. So there's this square with invisible lines, and this is what semi-locked does, okay? It still follows our champion, but it gets us used to using the camera with our mouse. So when we unlock that, we now have free movement and free reign over our camera. So playing unlocked is, again, one of those things where it minimizes the input or help from League itself from the game, and it maximizes your control over the game as the player. Again, if you want to build up to learning how to do this, go to semi-locked, and then get used to using it with this invisible square that doesn't completely go off. And then once you do that enough, you can unlock, press Y, and completely play with a unlocked camera. Okay, so now that we've covered all of our in-game settings, let's get into the in-game settings for your controls themselves. Now, again, minimizing the game playing for us and maximizing our control over our champion, that's what we're going to keep in mind when doing this. This is the final chapter of this episode, so just stick with me, and we're going to get there. So, first thing you want to do is quick cast all. Normal cast is the slowest possible way to play the game, so if you're a new player, don't use normal cast ever. Immediately get used to using quick cast. If you are a relatively newer player, or again, you're stuck in low MMR and you're trying to climb, maybe you're not using quick cast yet. Quick cast is what you want to play the game as fast as possible, okay? Now, if you're trying to get used to quick cast, one thing you can do is replace quick cast with quick cast indicator. Now, essentially what this looks like is for Darius, for example, who has a skill shot on his E. Where is level up here? So what quick cast with skill shot means is I hold down E and it brings up the indicator. Now when I let go of E, it immediately procs the ability, okay? Now, smart cast is essentially I hold down E and then I left click, and then the ability activates. Here, it's just down, up, okay? Now, if I turn off quick cast, it's just simply press the button and the ability goes off. So, using quick cast, the way to build up to it is, if you're not comfortable with it yet, replace quick cast with the indicator, and then once you're comfortable doing that, turn this option off, and you will, you'll be able to learn this way of playing League quickly. And again, because this is the fastest way to play League when it comes to casting abilities, this is optimized. Never cast the spell, never have this pressed off, cast the spell pressed, cast the pressed spell upon pressing another spell. Again, this is a very slow way to play your game. So, for abilities, I have Q, W, E, R, summoner spells, D, and F. So, Q, W, E, R on the keyboard, D, and F for our two summoner spells. And then, because I use a Razer Naga mouse, which has 14 thumb buttons, I have a ward ping set to the 1 button, and then item slots 2, 3, 4 for the warding trinket, 5 for item slot 5, 6, and 7. And then, obviously, I have the B button for recall. Now, getting into our hotkeys, let's see here. So these we don't have to worry about. The big thing here is self-cast we don't have to worry about because that is almost irrelevant to most champions. Exceptions of that would be Lysandra. So leveling a spell. So one thing you want to get used to is, and I'll cover this in a different video with hand placement, but when you level up, so level 4, I'm going to level up my Q. Instead of bringing your mouse down to click on this, one thing you want to get good at doing is using your keyboard to level abilities. So I use Control, slide my hand back, Control Q, that levels it up, and then I reset my hand. So again, that is another way of playing League optimally, is doing that. Target champions only. There's no reason to use that if you're accurate enough with your clicks. Teleport home B, again, best best for recall, in my opinion. Champion-specific, that one's not really relevant. Let's see, minimize that. Items, those are just item actives. So player movement, mouse button 2, right click. That's pretty standard for League. Attack move we're not worried about because we're trying to get everything else set up. However, keep that bound to A. Player hold position and stop position, keep those bound to H and S. We'll cover those in a different video. Pet, that would just be for like Annie's Tibbers or Yorick's Maiden of the Mist. Keep those bound as well, so Alt or Control, and then right click. Camera control, camera lock Y, as I had mentioned previously. Scroll up with the mouse wheel. There's really no reason to use the mouse wheel to scroll in and out unless you bump it. However, I would keep those set. Drag scroll, again, we're not worried about that. Let's see, center, keep center, camera on champion, keep that on space, and then these we don't have to worry about as much. Communication, so alert ping, so G and then left click gives you that, and then G and hold brings up the ping wheel, which if we go north, west, south, and east. V for the retreat ping, which is fine. Area is warded. That's the one I have set to 1, because there really aren't any other keys in the area that that I can set. I use T for push to talk in Discord as well as in game, so I don't have it set there. Covering this in a different video, my advice would definitely get a mouse with at least 6 thumb buttons so you can have it bound there. And then, also T is emote wheel. You can unbind that if you don't want to use emotes, but again, that is preferential. Z is chat history. Z is fine. That's just something to get used to for sliding your hand back. Menus, I pretty much just click on everything. You can set something if you'd like to bring up the shop, but the only time you should be opening up the shop is when you're back at base. Then you can just click on it down here, click out of it, and then item shop. Again, nothing really special there. Auto attack move we're not worrying about, and practice tool, everything's set over here, so that one you really don't have to worry about. So we're going to cover some more specific things that have to do with these settings. Today was just a general overview with your settings and getting everything straightened out and good to go before we actually start playing League. So more in-depth things are to come, guys, but as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see each other again tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.